And with this, I believe we are live for the third episode of Double Feature Horror Show. That is the live stream that I'm doing while my CPU is CP useless. I don't run those lines in front of the guests because I think they'd probably ban me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you reckon? Radio 4? Radio Norwich? Where's the level on that particular pun?
I've heard worse.
You're probably from me in your streams, to be honest.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. I am known for a bit of drive-by punning. Anyway, yes, so I feel like this is a regular part of the stream as I have to update you on where the heck my CPU is. It is currently in the Czech Republic, Czechia, and may eventually be coming back to me replaced. It could happen, I'm told, but that is obviously the most interesting part of the stream. Now, as I have no other CPU-related updates, we might as well tell you a little bit about what we're going to cover this week. We are going to be going into the world of horror sequels and some of the, not really an area of film that has a particularly good reputation, but we're going to go into those sort of murky swamps and pull out some absolute gems for you, some horror sequels that you might have overlooked, might have thought really aren't worth wasting your weekly rental from Blockbuster on. And after that, we are covering something far more recent, far more current. In fact, something kind of suspiciously current, suspiciously relevant, and you sort of wonder how that worked out. We're going to be covering the South Korean zombie film Alive and giving it a proper review and analysis. It is not just me doing this. I'm joined by returning guests Haryan Gláeddyv and Teabag Who Laughs.
What up, my drillers?
Hello, and welcome to the channel.
Hey, folks. I'd like to think, we probably share the audience here, so I think everyone should know you by this point.
I hope so.
Yeah, I recognise quite a few people in the chat. So
yes,
especially this one called Teabag Who Laughs. I recognise him in the chat. He's an annoying prick.
Never heard of him. Sounds like a knobhead though.
Yeah.
Is anyone from the Rock Gang around?
Gently Benevolent is very much part of the Rock Gang. Murgoot as well, a fellow geologist. Zen Chan, I guess he's an honorary member, but I think that's everyone I recognise though.
Zen Chan is my partner in crime.
I get it.
Oh, darn it. Yes.
Hey, look, you're not the only one who can do the cheesy puns, all right?
It's all right. It's all good. Zen-chan actually came through to me with a cheeky suggestion for a wonderful horror sequel, one that I wouldn't have even looked at. So we'll get to that in a bit. But I suppose I want to kick off this first section discussing horror sequels that are surprisingly good, with the question of, I guess, why would we be surprised? Why would we sort of look at a horror sequel and sort of think, I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Well, I can sort of the one that I watched sort of in preparation for this stream. I think you can sort of look at it as the amount of time that's gone by, and the quality of the sequels that had come out since the original. There was a notable decline, and this particular sequel, which obviously I'll talk about later, seemed to kick the franchise back into life. Not the perfect film by any means, but it was good enough for you to be able to sit there for 86 minutes and enjoy it. And you sort of thought, okay, maybe it's not quite dead just yet.
Yeah. I mean, let's drop a name.
Halloween H2O, 20 years later. So I watched that with my wife today, and I'd seen it before years ago. I think when it initially came out, but obviously being so long, I remembered next to nothing of it.
No, absolutely, and obviously that has been getting a bit of attention recently, given H40, Halloween 40 years later.
True. Well, I mean, it's not canon anymore, this particular film, because obviously it was all retconned in 2018.
That's, yeah.
I know. So it's an absolute massacre of sequels.
Mm.
I was shocked. But the natural thing I think to do was compare Halloween H40 to Halloween H20.
Mm.
That's going to sound really weird in pronunciation. Can I just check? I had a little comment on some of my audio. Is that better, folks? I was told there's a little bit of feedback. Can I just check? Is that better?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, no issues my end.
All right, lovely. And I mean, let's not talk about what came after Halloween. I keep wanting to say Halloween.
Halloween.
Let's not talk about what came after Halloween H20. Darn it! That film. We're definitely not going to talk about it because I can't pronounce them. H40 and Halloween Resurrection. As far as I'm concerned, Resurrection does not exist.
True.
But thinking about what came about it, it's a similar situation to Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where effectively it's gone on a bit in the sequels, hasn't it? You've had like, for reference, for people who aren't as familiar with the Halloween series, and I've got to admit I'm not as familiar as I should be. I feel a little guilty. For me, I love my original. I really like Halloween 2. I think it's got an amazing sequence where you're completely shaken up and you're turned around and surprised because you start that film following Michael, and you've got this complete inverse vision from what you saw in Halloween, where Michael's always sort of in the background, popping in and out of your vision. And yes, Zenchan, that is exactly the one. Halloween is the one with Michael Myers, who wears a William Shatner mask. And so anyway, he's sort of always in the background, and you're never sure about him. Halloween 2 subverts your expectations in a fantastically un-Rian Johnson-like way.
Oh, thank God.
By having you follow Michael Myers. Just, you're wondering, what's he doing when he's wandering around in and out of your vision? And, well, you just follow him, and it's really refreshing. And then, quite famously, Halloween 3 comes out. It is nothing to do with Michael Myers. It is a completely different story. That's for some sort of interesting reasons. And it wasn't as well received. And so Halloween 4 is where they, the reputation's been shattered a bit, and they come back and it's Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers.
Yeah.
As in, like, all right, guys, okay, we messed up. Okay, Michael's back. Michael's back, folks. Very similar to Friday the 13th, Part 6.
Yeah.
But I've got to be honest, guys, beyond that, Halloween 4, 5, and 6, I've seen one of them. I don't know which. I saw the one where Druid magic came into the picture.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, Druid, one of, weirdly, 2 films in that series to feature magic rocks. I thought I'd mention that for you, Haryan.
Rocks.
Magic rocks. 2 films centered around magic
Nice.
Rocks.
Oh, lovely.
But by then the series is not, it's not doing that well, isn't it? So then someone comes along and says, okay, you know what, we're going to do another one quite years after the last one. Your expectations aren't going to be high, are they?
No, and that's the thing. Like you said, I mean, the thing about I think sort of the way you described the Halloween sequels, kind of just sort of epitomizes how memorable they actually were, and how much, or how little, how poorly they were, not poorly received, but just they didn't sort of capture the mind. Really, I mean, like you say, besides sort of Halloween's 1 and 2. I mean, I know I've seen 3, 4, 5, and 6, but I mean, I couldn't tell you what happens because it was A, it was so long ago, and B, it was just forgetful. But for me, when you talk about sequels outside of the first 2, H2O for me sort of stands out, purely because of the way they connected it to the original. I'd say the original 2, because obviously the Halloween 2 is a direct, like, the same night of the first one. I sort of lost my train of thought there, but yeah, I mean, it sort of catches up with Laurie, obviously 20 years after the original events in Haddonfield, and I think it does an all right job sort of explaining that. I would have liked to have seen perhaps like an extended cut of the film, because I do know that there was an entire subplot of H2O which was completely cut out, and it shows because it was actually the shortest Halloween film of the franchise so far.
Oh, it's so short.
Yeah.
Did you say 83 minutes or something?
I think it was 86 minutes
86.
total runtime, so not even an hour and a half. And, it really shows. I mean, the subplot that was kicked, I believe, was to do with 2 cops who were essentially investigating the crime scene from the opening scene of the film, and there was supposed to be a plot around those 2 sort of tracking down Michael, but for whatever reason that was completely cut. But there are elements of that in the opening scene when you see there's 2 detectives walking around sort of giving a bit of exposition about Michael, but the subplot was centered around 1 male and 1 female cop, so it's not even those 2, it's 2 different characters, and it kind of shows because after that opening scene you never get any wind of police again. So there's the next thing you see is Michael has tracked down Laurie, as you would expect he would, gives it a bit of time, and then it sort of the when Michael's revealed and they realize he's there, it does, for me, a criticism is it does sort of feel a bit packed in too tightly, whereas like with the first film it was quite evenly spread, where it seems like in this one it was all packed in together. But regardless, you still had a lot of the old crew working on the H2O that you did on the original. So obviously John Carpenter, you had what's his name, Mustafa Akkad on there. Obviously Jamie Lee Curtis, who is along with Michael Myers, is the staple of that franchise. So yeah, you had the nostalgia, you had good connections. It was a good sequel to sort of catch up with where the characters were after so long, and it made sense. You
also have the story was co-written by Kevin Williamson, and folks, if you're playing Drink when Chloe mentions Scream, now is your time. We made it. Hey, we nearly made it 13 minutes without me mentioning Scream. That is possibly a record for us, I think, guys. And of course, Scream is both a reaction largely to horror sequels and sort of explaining the issues with them.
I'm about to mention Scream.
Oh, go for it. Go on.
Okay.
Go on Scream post.
Halloween H2O, there's a scene where 2 of the main female characters are in their room and they are watching Scream 2 on the TV. Do you want to die tonight, Cece? And then, yeah.
Oh, good catch. I had forgotten. Nicely done.
I spotted that and I was like, oh, must mention that.
Nicely done. I'm seeing chat is getting in on this. I'm approving this. Someone has clearly seen Halloween 3. Good stuff. I'm seeing some mentions of some of the ones I wanted to discuss. We're going to, Murgoot, you're getting some great suggestions there. Absolutely. Omen 2, I think. I don't disagree with you. I'd try and get someone like a few drinks in before I try to make the case for Damien Omen 2, but I would make that case eventually. Someone, Mr. Gently Benevolent, you have got ahead. You sort of touched on kind of a theme we might say is part of this whole picture of why horror sequels maybe don't have the best reputation is that especially your late 70s, your early 80s horror film releases, they're a bit slapdash. They're coming out. They're a bit. They're made by amateurs, basically. Because kind of a staple of the time is that you're 2 ways into this film industry. If you're a beginner, there are 2 genres you can go into. You can make porn. You can make horror. you can make both, like Sean Cunningham and Wes Craven. That is, they directed it. They didn't make it together, that I'm aware of. Sean Cunningham is, of course, the creator of Friday the 13th, that series. And he did work with Wes Craven. So the reason I was saying that is that they're typically the films made by beginners, by people with maybe not as much experience, but you can put a horror film together quite cheaply. And so those initial outings maybe aren't all that promising. And so when you see, even if they're very profitable, as horror films frequently are, that follow-up, you saw that first one, you thought it looked a bit sloppy, you're probably not going to be encouraged to go and see a sequel to it. That would be my logical guess, but I'd say the counterpoint to that, the corollary of it, is that sometimes it's actually films find their feet once there are a few sequels in.
Yeah, I think the Friday the 13th franchise is probably a good example of that, because obviously I know the first one is wholly different to obviously the second, the third, fourth. I know they sort of mixed it up. I think it was part 5, wasn't it? But when you think of the Friday the 13th franchise, you immediately think of Jason. You don't, obviously there was his mother, but and again, sort of bring Scream into it. A lot of people will forget that actually it was Mrs. Voorhees who was the original killer in the first one. So that's one way of how that franchise sort of got into gear. And I don't think he gets his mask until like the third one as well. So there's.
Yeah, that was going to be my point.
Right.
I was going to add it, but it is really important. You've got this idea of Jason Voorhees of Friday the 13th, and exactly as you said, Jason isn't even the killer in the first one. He doesn't get the mask until the third one. It's really a series that is evolving and trying so many new things out. Haryan, I know we're slowly working up to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't. Oh gosh, actually, I have seen them all at this point. It's been a long project, though. I want to check. Where are you with Friday the 13th?
Me?
Yes. I know we haven't set this as your horror homework yet.
I've never seen a single one.
Really?
I've never seen a single one. You've got me on here more to educate me about horror than.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's only seen about 4 horror films in his life, hasn't he?
Although I have thought of another sequel that was good, so that's something. I can bring 2 films into this, but no, I haven't seen Friday the 13th, any of them,
right?
Yet.
No, that's fine. That's fine, and we'll get to it, because my dream is that we have a great big Friday the 13th stream.
Yeah. Well, I'll watch them for that. I'll watch them eventually.
We'll hold you to that one. We will.
Yeah, I'll do my homework.
It's a labour of love at points.
Yeah. Well, you told me today I need to watch Bly Manor as well.
Yes.
I'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of taken aback by how ready people were to sort of be given horror homework, but I'm kind of into it.
Well, this is the thing. I've never had a drive to watch horror before, but now I'm streaming about them every week. I'll spend 2 nights a week watching whatever horror films I need to. Or, well, in Bly Manor's case, the series. So, yeah.
I love it. And so in the case of Friday the 13th, I have actually made some notes here, because in my personal experience, I was enjoying it, and I got to 3 and I felt, okay, this is 3 was where I thought, this is actually kind of what I expected Friday the 13th to be like. Finally we've got the jumpsuit, we've got the machete, we've got the mask. And then we get part 4, which I felt it had lots of weird elements, but it also switched things up. And for a while, I mean, I probably would still say 4 is my favorite.
Same. Part 4 is my personal favorite in the whole series. Yeah.
Yeah, and then my hopes were a bit dashed by part 5, but I was a completist, you know. Teabag, you've seen part 5, I think, as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't go there first with my recommendation.
No, definitely. I mean, I would go chronologically just for the sake of it, but put it this way: if you don't get to watch part 5, it's not the end of the world. You're really not missing out. I don't think, anyway, because it's not. It's definitely the worst of them, and you know there are some bad sort of moments in these films because the time it was, and it is sort of borderline cheesy. But yeah, part 5 in terms of story and it's they tried to change it, I think, too much, and it definitely backfired on them.
Oh, definitely. But you get past that, and then you get the next 2 sequels. And like, I was dreading these when they came up to the watch. I thought I didn't like 5 at all. And then 6 is the first one that starts making these kind of meta points, this weird meta humor, and it starts sort of having more fun with it. It's not super serious. And then 7 tries a completely different spin on it, completely different film.
Yeah.
And I feel you'd miss out. So there would be the kind of thing like these ones, Friday the 13th, part 6, part 7, part 4, you'd probably have given up on it by then. And you'd be missing out on some gems. I'm tempted to. I want to suggest one other that I know has already come up in the chat, because it's a similar thing, a similar case where a series has kind of found its feet unexpectedly in a sequel, and again following a slightly weird sequel. Who was it who has already mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors?
I think that was Mergut.
Good lad. Probably Lawrence Fishburne's best horror film. Probably. I think he's even credited as Larry Fishburne. He is very young.
Oh my god, yeah, I completely forgot he was in that.
I know. People were generally, I think it's fair to say, they weren't fans of damn it, Zen-chan, you've got a point. For the purpose of stubbornness, I'm going to ignore Event Horizon as an awesome Lawrence Fishburne horror film, and I'm going to stick to my guns. Event Horizon, it just didn't have Patricia Arquette, sorry, and no magic wheelchair wizards. Unless it was in... Were there any magic wheelchair wizards in the deleted scenes? I think I might have missed them.
Out of context, I have no idea what that means.
I kind of like dropping this. That is the best. One of my favorite things about horror films is you're just describing it. You just fairly neutrally in the plot, and magic wheelchair wizards. And also, one of my favorite scenes in the whole series is in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I'm not sure. Teabag, have you seen that one?
I've seen them, but they kind of were sort of. We used to watch them back to back, so they kind of all sort of melded into one overall movie, if that makes sense.
No, of course.
Like the Friday the 13th ones again, because me and my wife, we had both the box sets for that and the Friday and the Nightmare on Elm Streets. And so yeah, we would just watch them back to back, and you could talk about something in 3 and I'll be thinking it might be in 2, and vice versa. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, again, Friday the 13th part 4 is really cemented because that would be the one we go to most, but I'm trying to think of which one it was. You talk about wheelchair wizards, where that guy dies.
So that's the one where it's kind of it's quite intelligent. So it follows on very nicely, skipping the very unusual Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and it goes for a bunch of children who are in a sort of asylum for young people, and it's a lot darker, I would say. It's a lot more subversive, but you get some characters returning from the first film in a really sort of touching way, and they really go out there with some amazing visuals in it. It feels like the stakes are a lot higher. It's a lot grimmer and darker because of, these are children who are in an institution.
Are they the ones who are essentially being drugged to not dream?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
And I've already seen that. Zen-chan, did you get it? The amazing imagery that really stuck with me from that film, the vein puppetry. No, sorry, Mr. Gently Benevolent, you've put your you've absolutely nailed it. There is a brilliant scene where one of the characters is sort of can't stay awake any longer. His methods of fighting the sleepiness are cut off, and he goes dreaming, and he ends up puppeteered by Freddy. Freddy gets him,
Oh yeah.
and then he's being puppeted with the veins being cut from his hands. It is the most grotesque, nightmarish marionette imagery, and it's absolutely amazing. It's so wince-inducing when you see it.
I'm seeing that now.
But it's some of
I
the most
remember that.
creative imagery in the series. I absolutely love it.
That was a great. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was going to say that was the great thing about the Nightmare franchise, was because of the concept. You could really push. There was really no limitations as to what you could put out on the screen. So something like that vein puppetry, you couldn't get away with a standard slasher film, And I think that's the freaky, and that is the freaky thing about Freddy, is because you're essentially in a position where you are your most vulnerable. I think you sort of touched upon it last week, Haryan, when you're at your most vulnerable. You were talking about a bath.
Oh, in the bath.
Yeah. But this time, obviously you're in you're asleep, and you should be able to fight these things because of it's your dream world, it's your place. But he holds the keys, he controls your dreams, and and he can do whatever he wants to you, and that gives producers, directors, writers complete freedom to just go, right, okay, in this scene we're going to turn you into a vein puppet and we're going to make you dance I've got no strings on me, or whatever.
It was messed up. It had fun with the concept, but it was also confident enough because it had tried a few things.
Yeah.
Now we've thrown out a few there. I realise that we've maybe watched one too many horror films, if that is even possible. But Harry, you had a suggestion that's like it's a classic counterexample to horror sequels are terrible.
Yeah, well, it's very middle of the road, but going from Alien and then to Aliens, that was a horror sequel. The sequel wasn't really a horror sequel, but was a horror. It had horror. It's like everything in the second act was a horror show, which was lovely, especially since the tone was completely different to the first one throughout the beginning, with all the Space Marines and what's she called, Ripley, kind of being their she wasn't really a scientist, she was more their consultant for dealing with the aliens.
But it managed to throw the horror imagery in there a lot, and especially with the character of Newt, the sort of vulnerable child there. Lets you really get the horror stuff going on. I maybe saw that a bit too young, so that was very much a horror film for me long before it was kind of an action horror. I think I was about 11 when I caught a VHS recording of it. Good times.
Well, I mean, I think I first saw it about 2 years ago, which is weird because I'd seen Alien about 5 times by that point. It's one of my favourite films. That I liked it more for the sci-fi than the horror, though.
Annoyingly, I saw the third one first, so I already knew. Yeah, so I already knew what happened to the girl in the. By the time the second one rolled around, so yeah, it was a bit annoying. But yeah, I think I've only ever seen the second one once, and that's going back a number of years. So the first one for me is more memorable, and parts of what was it, Alien Resurrection? Was it Alien Resurrection? The fourth parts of that sort of spring to mind as well. But yeah, I think because when was the Alien films released originally? Like the first and the second films.
First one was in the 70s, I think.
Yeah, I mean the
70s. I would have to look that up.
Because 79.
I mean the Xenomorphs even today they hold up incredibly well.
Yeah.
And then Aliens was 86. I know Aliens was in the 80s.
Yeah.
And what was funny to me is that quite a lot of Aliens is referenced in a load of like games and films and things like that. So be like Got You in the Pipe 5x5. That's in like every game I play has that line somewhere. So hearing it in the film, I'm like, oh, that's where it comes from. Oh, that's nice.
Is it in Soma?
No, it's in Titanfall.
Okay, I was saying.
I don't think it's in. I don't know if Soma definitely references things, but I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head what's referenced in it. But
I would say if you haven't found it yet, complete the game and let us know.
No, I need to. It probably won't be this weekend, but I do need to complete that on stream.
I'm going to keep bugging you until you actually do it.
I will do it. I'll do it. I'll do it soon, TM.
I really want to watch your Soma streams now.
Oh, you can do. They're on my channel.
Nice.
Yeah, I spend like half an hour at some points just stopping and talking about what life means because it gets you thinking that game. But I do get really scared at some points as well. So yeah, Aliens is good. But while we were talking here, I thought of another sequel that I thought was surprisingly good, which was Saw 2.
Yes,
because that was
absolutely my dude.
That was before Saw just got into just gore porn. It was still like very gory, and which is why it was great. But it was still attempting to make sense and have something more than people just dying in it, because you've got a sadist in charge. Jigsaw still has cancer at that point, from what I remember. Because I swear I must have seen it ages ago, but I remember enjoying it. And he's like trying to teach people basically to value life by killing them in ironic ways. Because I remember there's a guy gets shot when he looks through like a peephole, doesn't he?
Yeah,
in the face. Yeah, I remember that. That's what I mean. Just not everyone has to die like putting their hand in acid and things like that. Some just get outright shot for being too curious or whatever it was.
If I can just pause there, Richard Orett in chat raised something quite important, actually. Yeah, we probably should mention, since we're talking about Alien, that one of the actors, Yaphet Kotto, did die today. And I think they mentioned, Twitter was mentioning him as a star of the Bond films. And I thought, no, he was in Alien and he was amazing. The poor guy died simping for a real queen. If you recall.
What a hero.
F's in the chat.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I mean, he really was good in that, and it's unfortunate that I don't think we really saw him go out, because he's paired with a female crew member, and she kind of loses it from what I remember, and he doesn't, I think, get an on-screen death. If you can correct me on that if I'm wrong.
No, I think that's right. I think even in the extended version, there's no on-screen death.
So, I'm really glad you raised Saw. I'm gonna go a little more obscure after this.
That's fine.
But you raised Saw. I like to know, chat, with the Saw series, how far do you recommend going? Like, well, I've got a 2 from Haryan. I would like to think there's I'd like to think there's a fair amount of people who'd say Saw 3 is worth it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I've only seen up to 2, so.
Haryan.
I'm just going over Yaphet Kotto's filmography. He was also in. So I recognised him from actually The Running Man. He was also, funny enough, we'll talk about Saw, the Jigsaw murders, and he was in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, and also The Puppet Masters, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. But yeah, there you go. And he was in Live and Let Die as well.
Yes.
Dude's been around.
Yeah.
It's just I find it weird that Live and Let Die is what's picked out, but never mind. I've a weird view on things. Okay, so we've got a bid of Saw 3. I'm very glad to see that. I'd like to sort of bid people up. Could I maybe see a Saw 4? Maybe a cheeky Saw 6?
Wow.
Okay, look, I'm not even going to try and defend. I'm not going to try and defend 7, but I really did feel like Saw 5. I can't really defend that, but I had a cheeky liking for 6. I thought that shook things up a bit just by going a bit weirdly ideological, and the whole film kind of fixates on the American healthcare system. It's quite weird. I think I might want to, I don't know, maybe sort of that would be good homework, talking about the sort of the ideological perspective of Saw 6.
I'll watch it.
You will. You'd just be saying it's leftism, but
probably
you wouldn't be wrong. It's weird. It's weird, but there's good stuff. I think 6 also had Julie Benz in it, which is look, I love Buffy and Angel. I've got my biases, people.
Which one is it where his apprentice, Jigsaw's apprentice, takes over the traps, and they're inescapable? Which one's that?
That would be Saw 3.
Okay, then
I'm aware of spoilers, but they give you that in that literally the second scene in the movie.
Yeah,
which was.
I would probably stop at 3 then, personally.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I'm very strong on Saw 3 because I've actually filmed a video talking about how Mark Commode really goes off on one about Saw 3. His review, he's very impassioned. The man was not happy. He opens his review saying that the first problem with Saw 3 is that it exists at all. Oof. And I think it's his Saw 3 review where I took the term popcorn and vomit movie, which is how he describes sort of Saw, Hostel, Devil's Rejects, and I'm missing a really obvious one. But I'll skip it. Yeah, he describes torture porn movies as popcorn and vomit films, and I really didn't like his take. But I've only got him reviewing up to Saw 3, which is why I'm quite keen to defend that one in particular, because I think he completely missed the point of that film and so much in it.
Right. Yeah,
I'm just Saw posting. Sorry.
No. I just think again. I think Mr. Gently Benevolent said it earlier. Yeah, he did, probably up to Saw 3, but I'd also say you have to see everything, because I have that whole Pokemon Catch Them All completionist aspect to me. It's like I'm not averse to watching the other ones, but in terms of if you would just go by storyline and storyline only, I'd probably say part 3 to end it off, because obviously he's handed over the keys to this other person, and it just is instantly corrupted in the wrong hands. I mean, with Jigsaw, there was like Haryan said, the traps were obviously designed to kill people, but you could escape from them, and there was a lesson to be learned, regardless of, you could probably sit down and probably have a chat with them over a cup of tea, and perhaps rather than pin a massive jaw splitting device over their mouths to make them understand the value of life. But there was that lesson there. but yeah, I think that message is he was probably morally strong enough to be able to sort of coincide, the value of life and shredding someone to pieces in like a massive barbed wire sort of army drill sort of situation.
He's a complicated man, and
Very.
no one understands him but his woman.
And it's
No,
demonstrated.
that's Shaft. Damn it!
Yeah. But
it's messed those up.
but it's demonstrated though, isn't it? Because as soon as someone else is assuming the role of Jigsaw, the message is warped and it's already corrupted at that point.
Yeah, and that's what I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
About it, so I'll go for that. So with this, what we've kind of done so far, we've kept it a bit mainstream. We've maybe looked at a series that you've heard of that you've maybe thought, part 6, part 7. I don't know about that. I don't know. And fair enough, you have to kind of enjoy the base series for it to be worth it. But if you do, I think we've hopefully dropped some good tips in there.
Here you go.
I've got some. Oh, sorry, mate. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Richard Orrit in the chat. Freddy versus Jason. What do you think? Have you seen it, Haryan?
What you?
No. Of course you haven't.
Haryan, in this age where we are trying to uplift black voices, are you telling me that you completely ignored Kelly Rowland's debut film after leaving Destiny's Child?
I don't even know who that is.
You don't know the best member of Destiny's Child?
No.
You know who Destiny's Child are, right? I mean,
no.
Oh my god, no! I'm not buying that.
Can we have a Z in the chat for Zoomers?
I'll accept that you don't know, that you haven't seen Freddy versus Jason. I'll accept that you don't know who Kelly Rowland is, but I will not accept that you don't know who Destiny's Child is. You don't have to like them, okay? It's okay to know who they are, Haryan.
Well, I don't know what it is. Is it? I've googled it. It's a band, or well, whatever. Is it a band or is it just the artist?
It's a band. Beyonce. Yeah, Beyonce.
I feel so old.
Beyonce was a Destiny's Child. Dude, man, come on.
They got together a year after I was born, and then it was till 2001. That's when I was 5. Of course, I haven't heard of them.
How can you do this?
I'd say I'm showing my age, but I don't think age has got anything to do with it.
I was a very sheltered child as well, to be fair. So.
I feel like you're the Michelle of this group.
I was going to say, well, I'm surprised you don't know who Michelle was, because I think after the band split, she released a Christian album, didn't she?
She did. She did
Christian
indeed.
songs. What?
Well, you are Catholic.
Yeah, that's why I avoid Christian rock. It's cringe.
See how much I know about religion. See, you know as much about Destiny's Child as I do about religion. There we go.
Yeah, Christian rock's its own thing for agnostics. It's not mainstream. Trying to see a horror show, go to a Christian rock concert. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely stunned by this. Oh my goodness.
I'm actually taken aback. I'm genuinely taken aback by that. But okay, moving on. Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy versus Jason. You know what? I had a good time. It makes no sense whatsoever. It kind of doesn't need to.
Yeah, no, it didn't. And the thing is that film came out around a time when, the whole who would win in a fight, Freddy, Jason, or Michael Myers. There was that was a thing that was going around at the time, and so that film was kind of, I think it was dipping its toe in the water for things like horror crossovers, because after that film came out, I remember that there was a massive, well, not massive necessarily, I mean, relatively speaking, but I remember coming away from that film thinking, I'd like to see Michael Myers versus Jason, or Michael Myers versus Freddy,
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, how can I say that it's an interesting experiment, and obviously it picked up. I know books preceded the film, but we did get Alien versus Predator,
We
I
did.
believe, shortly after.
I think so.
Or was
Yeah,
that before?
I think
No
so.
one looked that up on Wikipedia. Just trust me, guys.
You know what? Out of all the films you've asked me if I've watched, I have watched that one, and it was garbage.
You don't even know Destiny's Child. Why would I take your opinion? Anyway, yeah, it was. They don't try and make a 12A one. But yeah, that idea of a crossover, I thought it's got potential. You can have a bit of fun with it. You don't have to take it too seriously. And if you look at the IMDb trivia page for it, as I've done a few times, what struck me was they had no idea how to end that film. The IMDb trivia is about 6 different endings for it, where they were like, to be honest, who cares who wins? Can we get a cameo for another big horror villain in? And they were talking like, can we get Pinhead in? Can we maybe sneak in Michael Myers? Can we get Ash from Evil Dead in there? They were trying all of that.
I'm just gonna Gently Benevolent says Myers has a lot less supernatural elements than the other two. Also, Jason at one point becomes a cyborg, so he wins. I would challenge Michael Myers' supernatural elements again. Well, definitely not against Freddy, because obviously that dude lived in people's dreams. But Jason, I mean, besides living in a swamp, I always thought those two characters were very similar. Both
I'd say maybe too similar, to be honest. I know I need to watch more of the Halloween films, but I did feel like, how can I say, there's not as much to Jason, but I felt there was really not much going on with Michael at all. And his supernatural elements sort of depend on the film, to be honest. They really go back and forth on that in the canon. I'm not sure what he'd do with it, but anyway, I did have a fun time with Freddy vs. Jason, and as we're trivia dropping, we should probably note that the only reason we have Freddy vs. Jason is because of a very cheeky little Freddy cameo in the dying moments of Friday the 13th, Part 9. It is like the most blink and you'll miss it thing ever.
Really?
It's thrown in as a fun Easter egg. Yeah, think about how Alien vs. Predator came about as a result of a little alien skull in the background of a Predator ship that you could have completely missed.
Ah, okay.
It's very similar. But we stuck fairly mainstream in this, so I want to get a little bit weird. I want to be maybe a little more current, a little more out there with the kind of weird sequels.
Go for it.
Go on.
Okay, so first off, in the sort of, oh gosh, why the heck would this exist? Who would make this vein? Psycho 2 and Psycho 4. Now, Psycho 2 has a fair amount of production behind it. Obviously, it's got Anthony Perkins back. It's coming way after, like, more than 20 years after Psycho was released in 1960. And can you imagine the absolute huevos on whoever suggested, you know what, let's make a follow-up, let's make a sequel to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
It's a big gamble. Definitely a big gamble.
It's a big gamble, but they had am I going to mess his name up? Tom Holland. It's the same name as the scrumptious twink who plays Spider-Man.
Oh,
He does play Spider-Man, doesn't he?
He does. It's the scrumptious twink.
I'm trying to court the John D audience, please. Anyway,
John D called me twink once. That was fun.
Anyway, yeah, the same as the Calipagian superhero in the Marvel movies at present. So Tom Holland is a bit of a legend, a bit of kind of a horror hero of mine. You may not know his name, but you will know his work. He is the guy who wrote Child's Play. He did Psycho 2 as well. And of course, he did one of my personal favourites, Fright Night.
That was the were they the mini episodes?
No. So
No.
Fright Night is this brilliant horror film about a young horror obsessive who believes that vampires have moved in next door. It has got this
Right.
amazing vibe that Stranger Things completely rips off.
Got ya.
And I've got a video on my channel that if you haven't seen it, I would recommend. The film is an extended gay metaphor. And I did a sort of pretentious analysis of it where I walked through and tried to pretend that I understood Freud. And then I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to make a supercut of every single bit of gay referencing in that movie, from the subtle to the absolutely blatant that somehow snuck by even the people making the film. And it's one of my absolute favorites. So Tom Holland, absolute legend. He is a guy who got the fun task of making Psycho 2, and it's obviously not the quality of Hitchcock, but I found it really compelling. Am I the only one who's seen it on the stream?
Which one is that? Psycho 4 or Psycho 2?
Psycho 2.
Psycho 2. I have again. This is one of those films that I have seen, but it was a long time ago. But if I remember correctly, Norman Bates is released from prison, isn't he? Or he's released from mental hospital. He's declared medically sane, and he goes back to the motel where obviously everything carried out, and he's trying to reform his life. And if I remember correctly, there are things going on in the home which essentially are trying to make him go mad. Like he thinks he's basically descending back into that madness. I do remember the ending of the film, and
yes, I mean maybe let's not spoil the ending, but it is.
I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I do remember that particular bit. That's what stuck out to me the most all these years later, was just the way that the film ended. Very good, very good. Excellent. I have to say.
And following that, I think I'm not going to try and sell anyone on Psycho 3. It's it's interesting because you do have Anthony Perkins directing, but Psycho 4 is one of those films. It has no right to be good. It's released so far after any previous installment. It's not even released on video. It is a direct-to-TV movie. And okay, let's say we're trying to decide what to watch, and I'm saying, Haryan, once you turn off Survivor and Independent Women Part 1. In fact, we're not going to listen to The Writing on the Walls or any further Destiny's Child album. We're going to watch a horror film, and I've got this interesting one. It's made 40 years after 35 years after the original Psycho, and it was direct to TV, and it's about Norman Bates calling into a phone helpline to sort of talk things out a bit, share his problems, spill his emotions.
Yeah,
it's
beat stabbing a woman.
Yeah, it doesn't sound promising, does it?
No, I can't see it as entertaining as watching a woman being stabbed, but got out of context, that makes it sound bad.
Mr. Gently Benevolent, I hope you're. If you're missing references to Psycho 4, that is entirely understandable. If you're missing references to Destiny's Child, I'm shocked. I'm shocked and appalled. Is this just a Zoomer thing? We need to research this. But yeah, anyway, it's a really unconventional premise. It starts off with Norman Bates, still played by Anthony Perkins, calling in to a helpline, a radio helpline, I believe. And he's essentially saying, look, I'm tempted to kill again. And through this, you get a kind of flashback prequel where he's talking about his growing up that time, and you've got some amazing extra casting, far better than you would ever expect to be in this project. You have CCH Pounder, who people may know from The Shield. The kind of actor who you may not know the name, but when you see her, you absolutely know her. And in a kind of fun bit of casting, Norman Bates' mother in the flashbacks is played by Olivia Hussey, most famous, I would say, for playing Jesus's mother. If that was a deliberate joke by the director, then I appreciated it. It was a subtle one, maybe a laboured one, but it was kind of nicely chosen. It's a tough sell, but I know it's a tough sell. But seriously, Psycho 4 is a really good time. It's got no right to be as good as it is.
I will. Well, you'll probably get me to watch it one day, so
I might.
I will expect big things.
Yeah, I'm seeing the Right Honourable Fairs asking us to discuss Silence of the Lambs. Yes, technically we could, because it is a sequel, I guess. Technically.
Don't kill me, but I've never seen that either.
We will.
What's that one we haven't seen now, Haryan?
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the... Oh my god! Right, okay.
It was my ex's favourite film, and she never showed it me. But then again, that's because I showed her Star Wars. So.
Nice.
I know it's not necessarily a sequel, but sorry, going back to Psycho, we have to reference the 1998 remake, like the shot-for-shot remake.
Do we have to?
Yes. We just have to acknowledge that it existed, I suppose. You know, because we're not book burners. We don't have to, but we're not book burners. So
yeah,
I did watch it. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's a shot-for-shot remake. It's a little more explicit in what's going on.
True.
But
it was one of those, because I don't think it had ever been really done before. I mean, for me, it just felt lazy, incredibly lazy. I mean, at least with certain reboots. I think someone mentioned it earlier, the Rob Zombie Halloween 2 films. Now, I'm not a big fan of them personally, but the effort was there to try and reimagine the story, whereas that 1998 Psycho was just exactly the same as the Alfred Hitchcock version. I mean, almost like dialogue, scenes. It was even black and white as well, wasn't it? Like it was, they didn't even bring it in. It was black and white. I'm pretty sure it was. I could be wrong.
I'm not certain on that, but it did feel more like a just weird experiment, like Gus Van Sant saying, "What? I mean, just doing it as an artistic experiment. Could he recreate it?" And it really didn't feel like an honest attempt to bring anything new to the table. It was a lot more just seeing if he could do it. I mean, it's happened before. The most obvious example is Funny Games.
Right.
But that's Michelle Haneke just redirecting the thing meticulously, almost entirely shot for shot, because the American audiences wouldn't want to watch German subtitles.
Oh, I didn't know Funny Games was a remake of a
shot-for-shot remake.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that. There you go.
I'm seeing some interesting comments. So Zen-chan, yes, I have seen the original trailer for Psycho with Alfred Hitchcock, sort of being quite meta. He's sort of just walking around the set and telling you what happened. It's a really interesting experiment. I mean, the whole thing is an interesting experiment. Like, he chose to shoot it cheap. He chose to shoot it in black and white when he was mostly making color. It's just a fascinating show. And a few other comments. Gammon Easter Worshipper. I would love to. Both you and Right Honourable Fez have raised really good horror films, but they deserve more than quick thoughts. They deserve
Whole streams.
I
they
think
do
we
deserve
should.
whole streams.
I think we should actually go through those films in more detail because again, is it American Werewolf in London, American Werewolf in Paris?
Yes.
I think it is. Again, I've seen both of them. Remember very little of them. Would love to talk about them in more detail.
Yeah. But what I'm trying out as a format is we sort of have a rough topic and in the first half, and then we focus on a specific film for the second half. So those are very very worth being one of those films. I do want to move on to reviewing Alive, but I want to now just sort of spam some of the other ones I really wanted to get around to mentioning. Curse of Chucky. If people had sort of seen Bride of Chucky, seen Seed of Chucky, so those are the fourth and fifth films in the Child's Play series. Seed of Chucky, I absolutely hated. It was a proper what the heck am I watching experience.
Yeah.
Haryan, do you remember S Club 7?
I do remember S Club 7 actually. They were at my uni for like the last night out at the student union. We had 2 members of S Club 7, and I do know Reach for the Stars. It is a go-to karaoke song.
Chad.
Yeah,
it's pretty Chad choice. Hannah Spirit of S Club 7 fame is in Seed of Chucky.
Yes.
I have no idea why.
Probably because she was doing Primeval as well. So she was on TV at that time, wasn't she?
Yeah, it makes sense. It was a weird one.
She had a dodgy American accent, if I remember correctly.
Oh, she did. It was an awful film. But anyway, if you've watched Seed of Chucky, that's a hard sell to try and get anyone back to the series. Curse of Chucky in 2013 is more of a reboot, but it continues the continuity. It's a really easy way into the series. You don't really need to have seen any of the others, but if you have, then it will really add to it. And it's also got a gorgeous kind of passing of the torch vibe. I'm not going to try and spoil too much, but Curse of Chucky, possibly the best one in the series. It's amazing. I also wanted to drop references to Ouija 2, Origin of Evil. Now, I know that title is absolute trash, but it's a really good film. It is a really good film because, mostly because one of my favorite horror directors, Mike Flanagan, got the contract to direct it. Now, yeah, Ouija it's okay. It's sort of it's a kind of film that you kind of feel someone said, yeah, you know what, let's give that a go. Someone just thought, hang on, how come we haven't done a Ouija movie in a while? Movie about Ouija boards. Maybe we should try that. And someone tried to do the concept around it, and it was quite middling. And then it made enough money to justify a sequel, and they hand that contract to Mike Flanagan, who's an absolute horror visionary. He's done Oculus, he's done The Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor. Don't hold that one against him. He barely wrote it, so he's not really to blame. Doctor Sleep, Hush as well. And he takes this sequel to a fairly forgettable horror film and produces something a bit darker, really nicely stylized. It has no right to be as good as it is, and no one would expect it to be as good as it is if it weren't directed by Mike Flanagan.
Very interesting.
Yes. Those are all the unlikely, wonderful horror sequels that I wanted to drop.
Sorry, just to mention, Gamonista Worshipper says, have you seen the recent Child's Play remake of the original? I haven't, but I do. I don't know if this is just me, but I think I've never really been interested in the Chucky films overly. The first one, I think, because obviously, you know, it was a horror film, and I think many would still consider them to be horror films now. But I think as time's gone on, the comedy element of it has overtaken what it should be. I mean, here you have an absolutely frightening doll, which is murdering people left, right, and centre, and then so as you go on, he's a bit of a. I just don't feel it. They're going for the quick one-liners and the quirky little remarks and things like that, and I've never felt attached to that film in the same way that I do with like your Freddys and your Jasons and your Screams and so forth. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does seem to be a common sentiment. I mean, I'm not blaming anyone for that. I might be weird in how much I like the Child's Play movies, but basically 1 and 2, and then the rest of them I can kind of leave. To be honest, I do think they went a bit too jokey.
Yeah, like that's it. I mean, I can probably get through like the first 1 or 2 because there was that serious. I mean, the whole point that there was that serious storyline behind it. If I'm going to go and watch a horror, I don't mind the odd, little quirky remark here and there. You almost expect it, but when it becomes more of a comedy than it does a horror, that fear factor gets taken out of it, and then for me, it stops becoming a horror. And I feel like that when you think of like, especially more of the modern day Chuckies, like you talk like the Bride of Chucky, that's looking. I feel like that's looking more for laughs than it is than for shocks.
No, I agree with you, and I think it's a weakness of the post Scream films.
Yeah,
that some of them when Scream basically tells the whole horror genre, hey guys, buck up, stop being lazy. A lot of them thought, we'll just be meta and we'll just kind of like make jokes about how crap we are. And really, Scream was telling them to clean their room, bucko, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So I have seen the remake. I really didn't like it. Mostly because I felt it was kind of insulting the first film. But I've got a video on my channel about it called Flattery Not Included. So that was the worst pun I could come up with. As it's an earlier video of mine, the rotoscoping is completely painful, but that's kind of limited. So, yeah, you can get my extended thoughts on Child's Play 2019 in that. And also, I know Zen-chan, you mentioned Unfriended Dark Web, which sounds to be a sort of similar to Ouija 3 situation, where it's basically got nothing to do with the original Unfriended, which sounded like a kind of painfully modern concept, but it's actually ended up really good.
Yeah, I think Zen was talking to me about that the other day on perhaps yesterday on stream, or was it either yesterday on stream or when he was on his Twitch channel. I think it's like Zen. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. Was this the one you were talking about where they do a séance over a Zoom chat? Because all I could think about when he said that, if that's what I'm thinking, all I could think of was, imagine if one person had a dodgy connection, getting cut from the Zoom call was effectively like the séance equivalent of breaking the chain,
I think that was us on this stream, actually. That was talking about the film Host, which is on Shudder.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, right. Oh, yes, that's right. Yes. You're right. Yeah, I didn't think of it at the time, but I just thought, someone drops out their call, that's that chain broken.
Yeah. Now, so that's good. I'm very intrigued by that recommendation, and I think Zen-chan, we've actually got to get you on the stream to discuss it. Because you got me intrigued.
And all the deaths are 100% real. Really? Or realistic? There we go.
I was going to say.
Right.
I'm intrigued. But this, gosh, folks, I thought we'd be really quick with the first segment, but maybe I love just yapping about horror sequels a bit too much. But and Harrian, I really appreciate it because this has been a heck of a lot of films I know you haven't seen. So I'd really love to go and let's talk about something you definitely have seen.
Yes.
#Alive.
Yes. Do you want me to start? Was that the segue to start me?
So just for reference, people, this is the film we wanted to really talk about in depth. So hopefully you all saw it because I'm going to go out on a limb and say popular request. I realise that is grading on a scale, but people did ask to know the film of the week in advance. And so I announced it. I'm going to keep announcing them in advance so you can all watch along and be prepared. But I've kind of yapped. Haryan, would you like to tell us about #Alive?
#Alive. It's a zombie movie for those that don't know. I guess initial thoughts. It had really good moments, and then some moments I thought that were just really. Just teasing me, I guess, is the only word that comes to mind. But so overall,
lay out the scenario for us. Lay out the scenario, because I realise this is what we did in our discussion of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Is I was just so enthusiastic, I didn't actually describe the plots or what happened. So if you can give us sort of an overview of what happens,
so
what it's about.
So it's a Korean film, so obviously our protagonist is a Korean, I guess, Zoomer. Basically, imagine someone like me. Lives with his parents in a Korean apartment complex. Has a sweet gaming setup, I have to say. Essentially, he wakes up he literally just wakes up one morning, has a note from his family saying, basically, we've gone out early. There's no food in. Go shopping if you're hungry. So he doesn't. He just goes straight on his PC. then after he logs on, they're basically like, "Oh, something is going on in the news," and it jumps right into it from there. He lives like opposite another apartment block, or is it a hospital or what? I can't read Korean, obviously.
I think it was just another apartment block.
Yeah. So it's just another apartment block where people are just panicking and running out. And then it's a zombie film, so obviously there's you get your gory zombies coming out as well, who are obviously acting cannibalistic. And he essentially gets stuck in his flat the whole time, and because he can't open his door, obviously, because there's zombies around his apartment. There's zombies outside, there's zombies everywhere, so he basically just has to stay in his room, stay in his apartment, be quiet with very little food, and it develops from there. I don't know. Do we want to go into spoilers yet, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to go super spoilery. But essentially, I think you've got the premise, and what's so interesting about Alive is I've just been thinking recently about so many of the zombie films that they've gone massively big scale. Like, I think especially Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, it all went upscale. You're talking the 2004 Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake.
Oh, I love that
massive scale. I mean, I love it. It's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
World War Z, this is huge scale. And this film is about a Zoomer neat who's stuck in his apartment. I kind of love it.
The whole thing's based in like two apartment complexes and like 3 rooms and a rooftop of it. That's every scene basically. Is the street between them as well, obviously, but you don't really you never leave the 2 apartment buildings. And then obviously you go to the roof at the end. Spoilers.
That's fine. I mean, look, again, folks, it's a zombie film. There are elements that are always going to be in. Someone is going to get bitten and transform in front of other people. There's going to be a crowd of zombies. There's going to be a small group of survivors, and eventually they're going to have to escape a siege situation. This is every single zombie movie.
And with that, I suppose we're going into detailed spoilers.
No, that's just look. This is like me saying the masked killer's mask is going to come off at the end.
Oh yeah. No, I get that. I want to talk about the film and go into detail on some of the bits because it is very tropey. It's very tropey, which
definitely,
which isn't necessarily bad. It's just some of the things they do really badly and some of the things they do really well. I thought it's very hit and miss with its scenes.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think when it comes to the zombie genre, I don't think being tropey is necessarily a bad thing because it's such a safe franchise to make horror films based on. You can get away with essentially having the same premise with every film because zombies. You know.
Yeah.
The only difference is how do they move.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a certain amount of the plots for horror films are, let's be honest, frequently they're a bit formulaic. Let's be honest, but because of that, I mean, you can say that about any genre that until we're eventually talking about the hero's journey and saying all stories are the same. We can do that, but realistically, what makes a film stand out is the atmosphere, the details, how that story and those very familiar plot points are delivered.
Yeah.
And I think this one was creative. I mean, you've picked up on it. Julian's comment there picked up on it, that this gets going really quickly. Really, really quickly. Like, how did you feel about that?
I starting it off really quickly was fine. It's as Julian says, it takes about half an hour for anything to not happen, but it is mostly just going about his daily routine because I'll read that in a second.
It's good.
Because obviously I think the first 30 minutes is about his first week, and it's kind of like he's surviving on his very little food. Obviously that he has that guy that he lets in, and then he obviously starts turning in his house, and he manages to force him out. Then he puts his fridge in front of the door, which is fine. But then, as I say, he's kind of out of food at that point. And so I'm going, oh, is he going to leave? Is he going to leave? Because he's basically told by everyone, no, don't leave. He actually stays there. And I'm like, surely it's going to get to a point where he has to go out. Because I'm surprised he lasted a week on, quote unquote, no food, as they say. But
I was going to say, because he got, 10 days in before he ran out of food. And I think the water had even stopped after days as well, 10, 15 days. And I thought he's lasting quite well, considering that the film set up that he had no food in the home or had very little. And I think he had there's one bit early on when he just lays out the food on the table, it's just like a couple of snacks, and it looks like he's got enough rations for 6 days maybe. Like if he just looked at, if he had like a Snickers bar one day and then a Nutella the next. But yet 20 days in and he's still hungry, but he's got some food and he's still not dehydrated or.
And no, it did kind of annoy me the bit where he just kind of throws the controller after turning the TV off and knocking his water over. I'm just in that situation, anyone would be more careful. I mean, it's a small thing, sure, but he just he didn't care. He wasn't like, oh shit or anything like that. He was just like, oh, I knocked it.
Yeah, I think that kind of sort of. I think his character was kind of portrayed that way. I mean, he was absolutely clueless. Like you said, the first thing in the morning, he gets up, he knows there's no food in the home. Obviously, unaware that there's a zombie apocalypse about to happen. But he goes straight to his games. I mean, he's even playing his games while the whole thing's going on. And then
to be fair, that's relatable. What else is he gonna do? Yeah.
Again, maybe that's a sign of Zoomers today. The whole world's crashing around. Before your very eyes, and there you are stuck in front of your computer, zoning out.
What's it? He's playing PUBG, I think.
Probably, I think it was. Yeah, and there he is just playing PUBG.
Yeah.
And he, when the internet eventually gets cut, he's more annoyed that the internet got cut, because he couldn't play his games rather than having a mode of access to communicate with the outside world. He was like,
Well, to be fair, I think when you're solitary like that, you really do need entertainment of some description, because he didn't really do anything after. He had to. He was listening to music most of the time, drinking his dad's alcohol.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and what was it? It's like, oh, the TV signal's gone. All signals are gone. Oh, we can have a radio. He mentions like his mum always listens to the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, they don't have a radio in the flat.
No.
Okay. But then it's like, oh, to get the radio working, you get wired headphones.
Yeah.
And you cut the end off, and that makes an aerial. That's so. I was just like, this is one of the things it did badly, because he got. Because a bit that was really good was when he went raiding his neighbours for like food and stuff like that, and he found radios there.
Yeah.
Just use them as radios if you have. And have a reason for him not to have his mum's radio.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's like, oh, he finds headphones in there because everything he has is wireless, which I thought was quite funny as well.
It was little touches like that about how this guy knows nothing. Like, we recently rewatched Dawn of the Dead, and Ken Faree is there being a sort of police badass who knows everything, and he's really super skilled. And our protagonist in #Alive is a complete neat shut-in who he gets nothing right. I absolutely love it. He's running out of food because he never bothered to leave the house to go and stock up. Those little touches I thought were amazing. He didn't. It really annoyed me that he didn't like immediately run to the bathroom, fill the bath up with water.
Yes,
but
it was just that.
He doesn't know how to.
I felt incredibly frustrated by this guy to begin with, because he just seemed so bloody useless. But I think the film also just sort of tried to show you how technology can also fail you at the same time. Like you talk about that bit with the radio. Oh, I need a 3.5mm jack to stick in my phone. Well, then he goes into his drawer, doesn't he? And all he's got is wireless headphones. He's even like, oh, why have I only got wireless headphones? It's like, well, because you're up there with the tech, but actually what you need is something a bit older.
Things like that I liked, because he's just like, oh, I need a radio, which again, if his mum listens, I can't remember exactly what they say, but I don't know why she doesn't have a radio. I think it's like, oh, she listens to it through the internet. So I can't remember how he works out that he needs to cut a pair of headphones to get it to work as an aerial, because he seems to just know that. But that's a really esoteric thing to know. So
I think he did. Zen mentioned it. Yeah, I think his mum used to listen to it on the iPad or whatever their equivalent was. Yeah,
but that's what I mean. But then surely his smartphone should be able to get it in. I mean, it was just one of those details that I'm like, because they did think of details for their survival things, like the I mean, we'll get onto the girl in a minute, because I hate how she's introduced, to be honest.
I thought you'd have loved
really?
I hated it.
Really? Wow, okay.
Because we'll get into that. I'll get into why I hate it then, because she waits until he starts hanging himself to get his attention. I thought that was retarded.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Because it's like, it's not when he's recording himself. It's not when he's set up the noose. It's not when he's walking around his house with open curtains, anything like that. No, she waits until he's killing himself to get his attention, and then calls him an idiot. And I'm like, no, I'm not having that. I liked it the rest of the time, but the introduction, I'm just like, why now when he's killing himself? And then I like the relationship that they get into and all that. It's just the way she was introduced. I'm like, wow, that's bad.
She was a tiny bit flawless, apart from now that you say that, is kind of sociopathic.
Exactly. I'm gonna wait till he's hanging himself when he might have, by the time he probably can't save himself. I mean, he manages to, luckily, but
well,
I don't
it's
know
not unusual for a girl to get interested once she finds out you're well hung.
Especially if you're into auto asphyxiation.
She's
probably waiting for that moment.
It's not a Michael Rowland situation.
Because this is another thing. There's no way she didn't know about him, because there was the scene with the with the woman police officer who had the revolver.
Oh,
which
that was
by the
great.
way, another detail, she can that gun only shoots a maximum of 6 times whenever it's in, and they think of those details, but then the radio thing, but whatever. So she's firing off guns. She fires one into like through his window for some reason, like what aim? So yeah, when that happens, and that scene's just like establishing the guns on the floor there outside his home, so he can defend himself when he gets it, which is fine. But they live in opposite apartments. It's like directly opposite each other. It's on the same floor and everything. Surely they'd both look outside and notice each other or something. I mean, sure, they're both going to look at the ground, but he shouts, so she knows he's there.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
Laser it.
Although, can we just talk about how brutal that death was?
I really wanted to focus on that because I've got to be honest. So, Teabag, you suggested we watch this one, and I'm really glad you did.
Yeah,
I wasn't totally into it for quite a while, but it's the scene with the female police officer that brought me in, and then I was into it. I was hooked after that point.
Definitely, yeah, I was the same.
Talk about that scene.
So
dragging her away.
Yeah, so basically, he's just obviously sitting there, just waiting, and then he hears like the screaming for help. So he looks out over his balcony window, and he sees that she's obviously like running from a bunch of zombies. And as you quite rightly mentioned, she's trying to shoot them and whatnot. But then obviously she gets overwhelmed. She spills her bullets. She's trying to struggle to reload it, and then eventually she gets to a point where she knows that she's basically screwed. So she tries to kill herself. And then somehow the gun gets battered away by one of the other zombies. And then she doesn't even get that control of her own death in a sense. And then they just drag her around to this sort of area where there's a whole bunch of others, and then they just all completely dogpile. And then
it's that visual where suddenly the angle is upside down, and oh my gosh, that was amazing. I found that freaky. Just really got me on her side. Were you expecting her to sort of become another protagonist? Sort of
to be fair, I was expecting her to die, but I wasn't expecting it to go the way it did, because once she put the gun to her, her bottom of her jaw or whatever, I was thinking, she's just going to blow her head off, and then they're going to feast on her. But when that happened, when the gun got knocked from her, man, I just felt I just felt sympathy for her. I was like, that poor girl, man. Like, dude.
Yeah, it was a good scene. Yeah,
it was well done. And obviously,
I,
then he starts shouting his head off, like trying to attract him on. I'm just thinking, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Girl across the way ignores it. Yeah, great. I'll never be happy about that though, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I like that, and I also like the. I really like the scene where he goes hunting in his neighbor's place, because he is that after the scene where he goes out with the golf club?
Or is that before it? After. Is it after? I think it might be after.
I think he goes out with the golf club first, and then he goes out hunting. So I think he goes hunting for things after he meets the girl.
And doesn't he refer to it like crawling? Like,
it says
he's going to just like level up.
He said like it's time to farm or something like that, which I did like. Yeah, that is gaming lingo. But he was all prepared for it and everything. So he put the torch on his head. And did he bring a weapon? I can't even remember. I think he brought the golf club.
Golf club,
yeah. But he's going in. He's being really careful about it, because he sees the foot sticking out of the bed, so he throws a shoe at it. And then, and what I really like is that when he goes in, he sees pictures of, and they clearly go hiking a lot.
Yeah.
So that means when he goes in then to the room, there's a load of hiking gear and like walkie-talkies and other things like that. And again, I think there should have been a radio in there, but whatever. But yeah, that's all really well done. And then he kind of checks the dead body. Not really sure why he checks the dead body, but I guess it's like just double checking it's dead. And then the zombies behind him that was being quiet throughout. That was scary, and I didn't have a lot wrong to say about that particular one. I did about the one before though, when as we were saying, when he came out initially with the golf club, kills one guy, then sees the other guy that turned in his house, and he just shouts at him, and I don't know why he didn't just kill him, but okay, he shouts at him, gets the attention of about 50 zombies, and has to run. And the way he gets away was he tries to call the lift doors open, there's like 5 zombies in there, and they come out and knock over a horde coming to him, and they kind of knock over, but they're still clearly chasing him. But then he just hides around the corner.
That.
Yeah,
Can we
then he just hides around the corner until they go, and it's like, what?
Can we talk about just to add to that as well? There was, because as he's hiding, there's that blind zombie who's walking towards him, and I'm thinking to myself, how is he not going to get caught at this point? Because okay, fair enough, he can't see him, but you're thinking blind. Okay, well, if you're a blind person, you tend to have heightened. Your other senses tend to be heightened. Your sense of smells. Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking, all these other ones going, Tizzy, at his door or whatever, running past. Of course, they're not going to see him, but this one blind guy is going to be like, hello, what's going on? And then essentially rat him out, and then push his way out and escape via another means. But I was a bit disappointed that the blind zombie just went past him as well. I kind of like they could have added to that as well, because here you have all these, quote unquote able-bodied walkers, zombies, whatever, completely overlooking this guy, and then the one disabled zombie being like, no guys, he's over here, I can smell him, surely you can too, because it makes a point. I think that. It makes really would have loved that. Yeah, because I think the news broadcasters make a point to say that they've got heightened senses and things like that when they're like going all cannibalistic and whatnot. So I was surprised at that bit, but yeah, I felt that there was a lost opportunity.
I think they say the opposite. I think they say there's no evidence that they have heightened senses. All they're establishing there basically is that they can open doors because they've got memories of when they were human.
Right,
and that's the thing I actually really liked when when they were saying, some even have memories of their old jobs. Yeah, and that's why then the firefighter, because the zombie's best dressed as a firefighter, and he's able to climb up.
Yes,
which it was a bit contrived, that scene, but I still liked it. I didn't think it was too bad considering, because so the setup to this scene is she ties a string to a table and then to a baseball, and she's trying to kind of connect the two what's it called, the two apartment complexes, like between her room and the guy's room, by throwing the baseball over with the string. And it's like, okay, that's not the worst idea. I'd still use the drone first, which they end up doing, but whatever. So she throws it. It makes a loud bang on a roof of like a subway station or something, which attracts a few zombies. But then she doesn't pull it back up or anything. She just leaves it down there. And then I think it's 2 days later this happens. A firefighter zombie finds the string, looks up, realizes it goes up, and I think basically he just memory hits him and he remembers he climbs. So he starts pulling the string really hard, and it knocks the girl out.
Doesn't he? As he's climbing, doesn't he look at the guy and just almost give him sort of like a I'm going to get her, mate, sort of look?
That's just after when he gets the drone out to try and distract it.
Yeah,
so I think he looks over. But I think the drone
was an interesting choice. I don't think it was particularly well judged, but it was kind of funny.
Well, what else are you gonna do, really? That'd be.
It was one of those things that I think contrivance isn't a bad description of it, but it fit with a kind of vibe that wasn't taking itself too seriously. Yeah. So things like the little jokes, like he doesn't have any wireless headphones, so he can't make a radio. Yeah, things like, his neighbor happens to be into mountaineering, so has all the supplies. It's like, I'll allow that.
But that's
there are little fun things that make it a bit. It makes how can I say? It moves things along quite nicely in a fairly brisk film, actually.
After the first half hour,
yeah,
it did. It sort of got things going really quick, maybe a bit quicker than I liked, and then it did settle into its sort of fairly unique vibe where it is just this guy sort of wondering where he's getting his food from, and just failing at life generally. And I kind of liked it. I liked how low stakes it was. or sort of small scale, high stakes, but him just being a bit.
Although there was that vulnerability early on when the door gets broken. You know, so you know that there is always a looming threat because he has to repair the door early on, doesn't he? When I can't remember how it happens, doesn't he?
It's just a absolutely massive beast of a zombie pushes through.
That's right.
And then fairly creatively. Actually, I will add in here one of my nitpicks was. Look at our protagonist. Look at the absolute state of him. I don't believe that guy was able to pull himself up from railings once he dropped down. If people don't know the scene, he jumps over his apartment railings.
That's
and
it.
The massive zombie just barrels at him. Isn't thinking and topples over. I don't think that guy can pull himself up from the railings.
I think you'd be surprised what adrenaline can do. That'd be my reply to that. But I know what you mean.
We'll let it slide. We'll let it slide.
That's one of the lesser problems of the film. Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, we could go through, but
I think
what I want to pick up on now is sort of maybe the more obvious question of what do you think the themes and messaging of #Alive were? Did anything stand out to you?
I think it was a commentary on modern technology in some places, i.e. the headphones being one of them, and how that you can't always rely on, you know, up-to-date tech to get you through life. And that was, you know, the girl, the other protagonist, the one that Haryan didn't like in terms of how she
was in, I don't like
in terms of how she was introduced. In terms of how she was introduced.
I do like
but you know, she seemed very much more able to cope, you know, like, you know, things like setting traps, the food and all that stuff. She seemed a lot more capable than the male protagonist of, you know, surviving this this kind of situation. I
mean, that's definitely in there. I really liked how important it made sort of this guy who's you see he just gets up and he goes straight on the computer, can relate. This guy learning like he really needs human connection. I mean, the thing that just stood out to me the whole time I was watching this is a giant I'm not monetized, it's fine. There's a giant COVID metaphor, right? This is the lockdown zombie movie.
Was this, I know this is obviously released in 2020, but was this actually made around the time of COVID?
Kind of. Like it stood out to me so much that I thought, how the heck have they done this? How have they shot this under lockdown conditions?
Because I obviously I'd have to go back and look and see how it was produced, but I almost got the feeling that this was more coincidental than anything, because it wasn't. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like the world is living in lockdown at the moment. Oh no, and now there's a zombie outbreak. Oh God, 2020. When are you going to end? Right? It was more of, this is a situation where a guy is in a complex, an apartment complex, and a zombie apocalypse is broken out, and he is just stuck in there. You know, the movie even going as far to say, you know, it's the densely populated areas such as your city block, you know, your apartment complexes where the infection is spread the worst. So there is an analogy of isolation. I didn't personally see the connection to COVID itself. Like, I didn't. If
I was to describe it to you as, it's a film where a raging virus outside means that the protagonist is forced to be stuck inside his apartment and can only reach out to people online.
I think, well, I mean, it even loses that connection at some point. But I mean, I just think the timing is apt. You know.
Yeah. No, you're very right. Yeah, it is apt timing, and it is quite the coincidence, because I thought was this like Host in 2020? Was this made specifically for lockdown? And everything indicates no. So this, for a start, this is essentially a remake of an American script, which was filmed as #Alone.
Right.
And they started filming it on October 1st, 2019, and all the filming was finished by December 12th, 2019.
Yeah, so I mean, if we were to, it was, I mean, what was it? China, the virus in China wasn't even was sort of just getting into swing around about that time, November, December time, wasn't it? So
yeah. So it's slightly beforehand. I think we are talking a bizarre coincidence here, but I suspect maybe there were some production tweaks that were made, just towards the end, little things that they put in. Like, I felt, I mean, straight to the ending here, but there's that little bit at the end when they have made their way away, and you just see photos of people superimposed over their apartments, and the message is sort of like, "Stay alive, keep going."
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I thought,
that was the message of I can't remember his name now, but let's call him Korean Eminem. That was the whole thing. I must survive. That was apparently the last thing his father said to him. You must survive. So again, coronavirus analogies there. Links, coincidence. It's very coincidental. It is very coincidental, the timing of that film, and given the situation we're in. But again, I don't even think global lockdowns and national lockdowns and stuff like that were even something on anyone's mind at that time. I mean, obviously, what was going on in China at the time, their quote unquote ways to try and quarantine the virus was one thing, but I don't think anybody expected to be in the position that we're in now. Especially when you had in America, you had certain politicians saying, no, not a problem. It's not a problem. Go out and hug your fellow citizens. It's all good. And then a couple of months later, they're saying wear 3 masks and stay in your home, and don't hug your grandma, otherwise she'll die and it'll be all your fault. And it's amazing how opinions can change so quick, I guess.
It is. So I think we do have ourselves just an amazing coincidence here that's maybe able to be adjusted a little bit. There's one other scene that I really wanted to pick up on. Hi, James, joining us in the chat. Good seeing you. One of the regular commentators on the channel, a lovely guy. It's that scene when the action sort of picks up and they realize they have to make their escape.
Yeah.
And our wonderful real queen just gets straight into the action. What did you think of that scene?
So, sorry, were you talking when they're on the ground?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they
that's fine.
bail out of their apartments and they tool up.
Again, it made sense, but at the same time, I found it annoying because there is no way that either of them would have got out of that situation alive. Really, let's be honest. I mean, it was like watching a Jackie Chan scene, from like Rush Hour. Julian sort of says it best: "Is the pushing past zombie scene the same as the hotshot cop who can't hit the bad guy 2 foot away from him?" I mean. So, and especially the male protagonist, you can already tell he's pretty useless pretty much at life anyway, and then he goes down there and even the smallest details, like the way he's hitting the zombies with his golf club, you can tell he doesn't know what he's doing, whereas she does. And that sort of set up from the way that her apartment is set up, she knows what she's doing. She's way more prepared than this guy is.
I think questions need to be asked about how well prepared she is. She's just like a little too good at the old zombie massacre and the booby trapping her flat. Just like a little bit.
Yeah. Well, even the booby trap, I was a bit like, you need to weight that chair. That chair isn't going to impale. And it did.
Shows what you know, Haryan.
Oh well. I'm sorry, I don't set up many booby traps with the four-legged chairs these days.
No.
But yeah, I thought it was clever the way she went like in one side of the car and out the other. That bit was neat. That would get around it. But yeah, kind of the rest of it, they're both outside. They're gonna get swarmed.
I see now again when she got in the car and went through one side, came out the other, and I'm thinking, no, that wouldn't happen. They would just swarm both sides, and you're screwed already.
Well, the one's going over the top already when she's in, and then she comes out the other side. I don't. Well, yeah, but that kind of goes against they've got memories of when they were human. They're gonna know how a car works. You'd think so. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, goes against that.
You couldn't be blamed for saying that this frequently in Alive, zombies were as deadly as they needed to be in that particular scene. And I think that'd be a pretty fair criticism.
Very inconsistent, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got hyped in it. I liked the energy of it. I have to sort of like turn off my criticism a little bit to fully enjoy it.
Yeah.
But there's a certain it was a cool scene that was really amping up the action when I kind of needed it.
I mean, yeah, the choreography in that particular scene was really good. Again, sort of compare it to sort of like, a Jackie Chan, scene where he's, dodging punches and kicks and all that stuff. It is complimentary when I say there is a complimentary meaning behind that as well, because it was, as I say, choreographed well. But Julian mentions it in the chat. It came across as completely off tone to the rest of what you've been shown. And I'd echo that. It did sort of take a different. It was even after that scene, it sort of slowed back down a bit into where we were before that scene, if that makes sense. It just seemed like that maybe they could have made her. They could have made it perhaps a bit more suspenseful, rather than this needless action scene.
Yeah. It wasn't consistent tone-wise. I absolutely have to give you that. We did get the bursts of action and then go down into mundanity, and that's I mean, that does happen a fair amount in zombie movies. I'm thinking of Dawn of the Dead especially. Lots of it's either nothing's happening and they're all hanging around chatting, or they're doing a big action set piece, and it kind of had that feel. But it does mean that I would have liked some more escalating tension rather than the dropping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Escalating tension, I think, would have been better than just there you go. You're right. You're in it now. Sort yourself out.
I suppose a necessary thing. Was there anything else you wanted to say on it, Harry? Not worried I cut you off there.
Scene. No, I think we've covered that scene. I wanted to get to the bit with where they go after that scene.
Yeah, go for it, man.
With the when they meet the guy who happens to save them, and he's just like happy to be saved, and she's constantly cautious. She's a bit of a Mary Sue, isn't she? She gets everything right. Now that I think about it, which
really surprisingly, I thought you'd love her.
Well, not love, but no, I liked her as a character. But kind of going through it now again, I'm thinking, wow, she does everything right. I mean, I do like her. I do like that she has survival instincts and all that. And is it established why she has that, or does she kind of just have it from the start? I mean, if she has it from the start, it's fine. It's not like she needs to be a constant camper or anything.
No, but I like how serious it was. There was a cute little thing just before, just after they have that action scene and they're in the lift, and it's a really cute detail when they just say they're just talking face to face, and she says to him, or it might be the other way around, like, "Oh, we're using informal language," and I just thought that was really cute. So it's just like in German, like you feel so weird about it. You can address someone formally, or you can address them informally. So, Sie benutzen oder du benutzt, and you have that little conversation sometimes. Like you say "Du kannst mir duzen," like you can talk informally to me. It doesn't translate well, but I mean, I feel weird about it every time. But
I know it's not the same language, but yeah, Japanese has that. It has distinct formal and informal tones. So presumably they're asking that because of just because of the language, I suppose.
Yeah,
but yeah, nice little touch there. Yeah, like, are we being polite now, or can we just, what's that?
Yeah,
mate?
like it's the end of the world. It's a zombie apocalypse. But
I ain't got time for formalities now.
Manners.
Yeah,
yeah.
I adored it.
Yeah, that didn't even cross my mind because I'm not used to anything but English, and pretty much everything in English is informal. And now that is a good detail. But yeah, when they get to the guy who saves them apartment, and he mentions that there's a rescue team coming. I'm not sure how he knows that, but fine, they get the information from there. But then he drugs them, and I was like, wow, I didn't really expect this kind of turn. Because this is another zombie trope, isn't it? Oh, they're drugging. He's got someone he loves whose turn, and he wants to feed them people to save them. So that's old as any zombie film, that, which is fine.
I was trying to figure out how he got his wife into that apartment in the first place, given that obviously that wasn't his apartment, that was some other random family's. How did he get her in there?
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that wasn't his home.
Oh, right.
Because if you remember, he's standing there having a cigarette.
Yeah.
And there's the baby bottles there, and she turns around to him and says, "Oh, have you got any kids?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Oh no."
Oh, right. I didn't know. I didn't realize that meant it wasn't his apartment, but that makes sense. I thought it just meant his kid died, to be honest. But no, that makes
yeah,
sense.
You can imply that, but yeah, the picture isn't of him.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, I assume he got her in. Well, he had that long leather thing, didn't he? I've no idea how he got her in there. Actually, that's a good point.
It's an interesting one. But I really like that detail of how cautious she was.
Yeah.
I keep saying I avoid saying names because I'm sorry. I don't want to butcher. I don't want to butcher a Korean name. I worry I'll mess it up. So apologies for just saying male protagonist and female protagonist, or real queen the whole way through. Sorry about it, peeps.
Oh, Julian Parker just says they let him in and he fed the baby to his missus.
Fair.
So,
dark.
Yeah. So okay. One possible then is maybe she hadn't turned. They let the pair in, and maybe he hadn't turned, or she hadn't turned.
I mean, the issue isn't getting in. I think the issue is how did he manage to get her in that contraption where she was on the tether.
Yeah.
With the belt around her. That's more the bit, because there's no way he's doing that without getting attacked.
He's a resourceful man. He can wrangle.
Well, he wasn't very good when she attacked him after that. So
yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah, but that's another thing. She how does the female protagonist get out? Because this was a thing. The zombie wife was on top of her, about to bite her for ages. But then in the other room, he's still tethered her, and it's looking like he's still pulling her away, but she's already on top. Letting go doesn't do anything at that point. But
I mean, the male protagonist doesn't know this.
No, I well, yeah,
Gamer Boy doesn't know, but it is a bit weird because we, the audience, know. So
exactly.
it is a bit awkward. I'll be honest, that bit was a cool concept. I don't think it necessarily worked because the zombie wife had already gotten on her. She was already in as much danger as she could be, and it sort of nerfed the threat because she really should have been bitten a lot sooner.
Yeah. Well, that too. I can't even remember how did the wife get off and start attacking the husband. I don't even remember why that happened. I think blur at this point.
The door got open. Well, I think the door was open. I think, and she just lunged at him.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Sorry. I think the woman. I think the woman had actually thrown, sort of pushed the zombie woman onto him. Like she wrapped herself. I can't remember if she wrapped herself up in something, or
Yeah.
that's it. I think she wrapped the zombie mother. Oh my god, the zombie in like a bed sheet or something. Then it just went yoink.
Yeah, I'm having to check, and I'd say, okay, my memory isn't always the best, but the fact that none of us exactly recalled how this worked,
There you go.
and yet we had a pretty darn clear idea of some of the other scenes. This does indicate this was a bit muddled. It's a nice idea, but the actual direction of this scene wasn't particularly good. Even for me, the real horror was just earlier when she's suspicious, she doesn't want to get drugged, and then
they do.
the gamer dude is just like, yeah, no, come on, guys,
We're getting rescued.
it says free candy. Come on, it's false advertising if the candy isn't free. Come on, don't wuss out here, guys.
He's very naive, which is fine.
I liked it. I liked
it.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
He was a very flawed character.
Yeah, which is good,
but quite endearing in a way.
Yeah, he levels up a bit, but he does still have his limits. I mean, this was the thing. It is a lovely sort of. It's effectively a call to action, as Julian has said. It is him learning that being a shut-in neat crawling on Dota is maybe not the best thing to do.
And then
and he levels up, and he's all about just that importance of human connection, and for me that makes it a really human film. It's this I will go through things like teeth, like zombie flesh eaters, and you may not expect a deeper message, but I thought this had a really nice humanitarian touch to it.
And then,
I agree.
Yeah, but then may as well move on to the last scene where they escape the zombies. They kind of the girl and the female and the male protagonist kind of trade places, trying to like help each other from the zombies every now and then. I like the bit where he gets the fire hose. He's like, "Oh, fire hose! I'll spray him down." Completely forgetting the water's turned off. And I'm like, "What are you doing? The water's turned off."
Yeah.
Like, what an idiot! It's fine. But as I say, he's naive and forgets these things. That's established. It's fine. It's totally in character. So I enjoyed it.
It's also okay. So I'm a bit hesitant to generalize about an entire country's films because of Korean cinema. We see what is generally thought. Westerners will give it a go. But what I see in Korean films a lot is kind of a really good way of directing sort of kind of chaotic choreography, and it's moments like, oh, I'll give it a go with the hose, and oh no, the water's off, or he's trying to escape and he presses the lift, and then the lift is full of zombies, but he's lucky because the lift zombies come out and block off the other zombies, and it's that kind of chaotic choreography that works. And you think of Old Boy, you think of I'd say maybe people haven't seen it, but a lovely little Korean action film called A Bittersweet Life.
Right.
Or you think of Parasite, which won an Oscar last year. And all of those scenes, they have these brilliant uses of spacing and choreography where it's a bit chaotic. And it seems very Korean. It's just something I see in a lot of Korean films.
Yeah. Like even the first that metamorphosis. I'm sorry to go all the way back, but when he let that guy in the apartment, or when he sort of forced his way in, the way he metamorphosized from human to zombie was very exaggerated, very sort of what you would expect from sort of like your sort of Korean / Japanese / Chinese sort of film, a film made in an area, it's very sort of accentuated in the tics and the way that he stretched his body out. I was like, A, that's creepy. B, I don't think you can get away with that in a with like a, I don't know, like a British or an American actor / actress doing those kind of body motions.
It looks sped up as well. When it does it, which works well with it. I do like everything superfluous about the zombies is really good. I'll say. Yeah, which adds to the film, as I say.
It wasn't super gory, but I thought
No.
they looked really nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do like how I'm just watching the last scene as well again. How the female protagonist, she's very resourceful, using a chair and the pram to push into the zombies to get past them all in the corridor bit. And obviously, as I say, the man tries to use the hose, doesn't work.
Yeah. I did laugh at that.
Yeah. But as I say, it all makes sense. But then you get to the bit on the rooftop, because I hear a helicopter all the way up, and then obviously it's not there, and then it's like a tense, 5 seconds, they failed. But then it just appears behind them from behind the building, and it's one of those tropes that I'm kind of like, oh yeah, it's I'm not supposed to take a scene like that seriously, but it just I'm just like, why? You can just have the helicopter there. It's tense enough. You don't need a kind of bait and switch fail. But they gave it, and then they had the army dudes on the chopper just shooting all the zombies, and I'm like, oh, that's a nice ending. They were saved after all.
Another film, another ending involving a helicopter.
Which is it's a zombie film. Yeah, it's fine. It's
if you think back to Dawn of the Dead, that's how they were ending it. It's a little bit of a thing. I suppose did anyone have anything else on a hashtag alive? Anything else you wanted to say on it?
Yeah, I thought it was a good go. I thought it was a good go at the zombie. I mean, when it comes to films like horror films, zombie ones are the ones that get me the most. I have like a pathological fear of zombies. But I was surprised at actually how much I did enjoy it, and the concept was really interesting. Because I'd never come across anything like that personally before. I think the closest to that was Quarantine, which I can't remember what it was called. What was it called? Wreck. That's it.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, that was the closest, obviously, where they're in an enclosed space having to deal with this, but it wasn't really so much of a zombie threat. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and knowing that while he was even in the apartment, he was constantly vulnerable because he, as I say, the door was rather poorly barricaded, so you just felt like there was a constant threat the whole time. But I'd definitely watch it again, or I'd definitely like to see more stuff like that. 28 Days Later.
Yeah, 28 Days Later definitely got those vibes.
Yeah, I did that, to be fair, yeah.
I got to feel like the action scene where they break out, it had big sort of Shaun of the Dead vibes for me. If you remember, there's just a scene in Shaun of the Dead where they're coming out of Simon Pegg's girlfriend's flat, and they just do a run, and they're just running past the zombies and just caning them on the head. And I think that energy has been taken in quite a few zombie films since, which, it's fine. It's fine. Take from the best. It's all good. And I suppose there's kind of a crucial question we got to ask is, was it scary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it definitely, if you want to get scared, definitely watch it for that. It's definitely its highest points where they have the tense build-ups to scares. That's definitely its best points. The survival parts, I guess, are a tier below, but then I guess the action scenes, I'd say, well, especially the one where she runs out through the middle of the road. That's probably one of the less good bits, but overall, I enjoyed it.
I'd say it's a pretty easy entry point for people. Like, that's really accessible. I could show that to most people, and I wouldn't think that is going to really go over their comfort zone. It's kind of, it's characters you like. It's not super grim dark. It's very relatable. It's small scale. There are scary scenes, but it's not relentless horror.
Yeah.
So I could show most people that, I think, and they'd go for it.
Yeah, as I say, as someone who probably has a phobia of zombies, it was I was surprised. I found it scary. I was surprised I managed to sit on my own in the dark at about 11 o'clock at night watching this film, and that I got through it in the first time of trying. But yeah, I was I wasn't. I don't like zombie films just because they scare me, which is a good thing.
Pussy.
Sorry, hang on. Wasn't this like the 5th horror film you've seen? Have you watched any of my videos in the dark yet?
No, that's a good point.
Pipe down, man.
I had to turn my light on in the 24-hour stream when you were telling us about that bloody dream you had of the guy smiling. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love it. Julian, actually, you pick up on a good thing. There weren't really many night scenes. It was generally it was pretty light. It is an odd detail of it.
Female police officer was the only one in the dark, I think.
Zuma got told.
Oh. Ellen.
Yeah. Okay. And well, I think I'm going to round things off, folks. So for anyone who's around at this point in the stream, I'll just let you know that next week we are scheduled to have a guest. We've got Poe the Person coming on, and we're going to be discussing whether we are in a new golden age of horror. And then the film we are going to be focusing on is a film called Butterfly Kisses. I know basically nothing about it, but if it's we went with a recommendation this week from Teabag, and that turned out amazing. So I'm going to see how that goes.
Awesome.
Absolutely simp for Poe. Poe is a real queen.
She is a real queen. As I keep reminding her.
Yeah. So for everyone who is going to be watching next week, whether live or on the replay, get your hands on Butterfly Kisses and watch that. And Haryan also listened to Destiny's Child, The Writing on the Wall. Also Bills. It's an older one, but I think it's still a good one.
I recognise those songs, so I'd probably recognise them. Just don't know the band very well.
You ever seen Charlie's Angels?
No.
Okay.
I know. Say My Name.
Yeah,
I know that song. Yeah. Okay. I'll learn my late 90s bands a bit more then.
This is extra homework for Haryan.
I know Blur. I know Oasis. Stop.
Okay,
no
folks.
bully Zoomers.
Oh no, you're good. You do your homework. I love it. All right, folks. I think we'll round something off there. So, Haryan and Teabag, if you've got anything you'd like to sign off with,
You first.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay. So again, had a great time actually. I'm really enjoying these streams. I have to say, it's nice to talk about something that isn't just like true crime related, or I suppose you probably feel the same when it comes to politics, Haryan. It's nice to talk about something different. I'm actually, speaking of politics, I'm going to be releasing a video later on this week about, if you live in the UK, you probably know about the Sarah Everard murder investigation that's going on. I'm going to be releasing something just to give people information as to what we know so far, but I will be keeping it politics free because I know that there's a lot of discussion going on at the moment, and I'm not equipped to talk about that sort of stuff. That would be something in more of Haryan's domain, so make sure you check his channel out as well. But yeah, keep an eye out for that, because this will just be information based on what we know, bearing in mind a lot of it's going to be media reports, so if some of the facts change, I'll probably do another video at some point. But yeah, I feel like it's worth talking about at the moment, given it's quite a hot button topic at the moment. So yeah, check that out. That should be out by no later than this Sunday. So yeah, links in the description. Check us out if you haven't already.
Yeah. And on that subject, I probably will be talking about the politics of the Sarah Iran murder. I don't know. I've been keeping a bit of an eye on the protest, but it probably will be less about that and more about the what the politicians are doing about it. Because now we're going to have plain dressed policemen in clubs and bars, making sure that women aren't raped in them. Because a woman being taken off the street by a policeman, you're going to want more policemen around women when that happens. Anyway, that's spoiling the video. So I'll probably release something of that. Maybe make another video this week if something else annoys me. I don't really schedule it. I just something has annoyed me. I want to talk about it for 20 minutes. But this Saturday at 9 p.m. it will be part 2 of the Simp for Real Queen's Top Trumps. We'll be judging the other 15. I can't remember who we've got left. We've done most of the ones we wanted to do, to be honest. But I think we've definitely got Queen Elizabeth the second. She'll be judged.
Maximum power.
Yeah, exactly. Who else are we missing? Ivanka Trump, Lauren Southern. We've not covered. Oh, we've got Meghan Markle as well. That thought will be. Daughter of Albion's another card you can look forward to.
Yep, straight tens all the way. Good.
Proper horror show.
The Fash Queen. We don't have one for Chloe, unfortunately. We've got the full 30. We had one for Saffron, though, which I think we just put into annoy her.
You did Saffron and Disco, right?
We've got one for Saffron. I don't see one for Disco. I might make one for Disco just to be annoying. But she doesn't watch my stream, so I don't think she'll even realise. So
Poe?
Yeah,
Go on for Poe.
We'll add Poe. Yeah, we'll add. I'm limiting it to adding 2 more since last time. So we've got another 15 to do, and I don't want to have to do a part 3. So
I think female protagonist from this film should go in.
Yes.
Nah.
We may even learn the name and get confident enough to pronounce it. I just don't want to mangle it, guys. I do care. Yeah. I just don't want to mangle it.
Well, we have Lauren Chen. She'll cover for the Asian market, I guess. So yeah, that's this Saturday.
I will definitely be watching that, and actually I want to watch both of those because I thought Teabag, when you did the Emily Jones case, I thought you did it sensitive. It's obviously it's a very inflammatory case. I thought you handled it really well, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be in a similar vein to that one because again, similar to that one, there was a massive sort of political discussion going on around the immigration status of this. They did what they did, and again, I just wanted to sort of keep it factual as opposed to trying to insert opinion here. Because obviously there are people who want to find out actually what is going on and don't want to have to filter. And I'm just making it essentially so that it's so you can find my video, which essentially will just filter through the noise. So this is what's going on. This is where we are at the moment, and obviously this is where we'll be in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so check those out. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. I'm sure we all know each other here.
We do.
And again, a massive thanks to you two for coming on stream. Again, I'm really enjoying this. I was nervous about these. I'm having a really good time doing these streams with you.
Oh, I'm loving it.
Yeah. So, and big thanks to everyone who is live in chat. You guys are awesome. You've made really good contributions tonight. I'm sorry if I didn't get to address every film you said. For me, that's a good problem, And everyone watching on the catch up, I hope you enjoyed it. I may even get edited videos soon. It could happen, but well, who knows? My CPU is still in Czechia, but we'll find out eventually. But for now, I am going to sign off. You know where we will be next. It is 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. Double Feature Horror Show will return. And so, what's the thing I always say? Oh yeah, thanks, y'all. Cheers.
#RockGang.
Hashtag